Hilltop Publishing House presents Hill Chad. Hilltop Publishing House presents Beneath the Calm, written by C.D. Hill. Part 1, Departure and Impact. The Persephone waited in her slip like a promise Jason wasn't sure he could keep. Morning glazed the marina in pale light, gulls pinwheeled over the mast, and the air smelled like diesel and wet rope. He checked every line anyway, palms sliding along varnished rail, fingers finding each shackle, each knot, as if a new disaster might be hiding inside a frayed strand. "Wind's good," he said without looking up. "We'll be out past the breakwater in 10. Emily Waters stood at the stern, tying a bowline so clean it could have illustrated a manual. Her face had that unreadable calm she wore when she'd already had the real conversation in her head and decided not to have it again out loud. "You said that 5 minutes ago," she said. "And 10 before that? You want me to say we're screwed instead?" Jason tugged the jib sheet, felt the tension sing through the line. "Because I can do that, too. I want you to stop pretending you're not wound like a spring." She tested the knot, wiped her hands on her shorts, and looked past him at the channel. "Let's just leave." Marcus Vale banged up from below with a lopsided grin, a half-loaded soft cooler in one hand and a Bluetooth speaker in the other. He'd already decided this was a party and dared reality to prove him wrong. "We leaving? Or are you two role-playing crisis in communication till lunch? Because I can make popcorn." Emily's mouth twitched. Jason ignored him. Lila Vale came last, barefoot, sketchbook under her arm, the strap of a faded sundress sliding off one shoulder. Her attention looked casual. Sea, sky, gulls, but it kept snapping back to Jason in quiet little checks, like she wanted to make sure he was still there. She brushed past Emily without touching and leaned on the rail. "Water's glassy." "That won't last." "It never does," Emily said. "Look at you," Marcus said, popping the speaker on. "Navy talking like a sea witch." "I knew bringing you was a good idea. We needed a muse." Lila didn't answer him. She watched the line of the horizon. Jason watched her not answering him and tried not to remember the smell of her hair, the shape of a motel headboard shadow through a curtain, the way she'd said, "I know this is wrong," and then closed the space between them anyway. He looked down and retied the same cleat for the third time. They cast off. The Persephone slid free, nudging out from the grid of slips like a fish leaving a net. Jason eased the throttle until the diesel hummed in its pocket. When the channel opened, he killed the engine, let the main take canvas, and felt the boat kick in that animal way, a body remembering how to move. Wind took them. The dock and its problems shrank. Marcus put on music, something sun-drunk and 2 decades old, and draped himself at the helm. "Welcome to the SS Bad Decisions," he said. "Next stop, absolution." Emily took the chart book as if she didn't trust the plotter. Lila sketched the mast and the V of the 4-triangle, pencil rasping lightly on paper. Jason stayed busy. Busy kept thoughts in single file. They cleared the harbor mouth and the ocean open, a long, calm breath. The boat found her groove at 5.5 knots on a clean reach. For a while, no one talked about anything that mattered. They talked about the heat and a freighter hazed out on the horizon, and the way the marina coffee always tasted like burnt walnuts. Marcus told a story about a festival in Lisbon. Emily corrected his geography twice. Lila drew his profile, tore it out, and crumpled it. Jason trimmed the main in tiny increments that didn't need doing. By late morning, land was a smudge behind them. Lunch was bread, canned tuna, and the last of the decent fruit. Emily ate in small, practical bites. Marcus ate like high tide. Lila bit her lower lip after every swallow, like she could force the taste to change. Jason chewed without tasting at all. "Remind me why we're not bringing a fifth?" Marcus said through his mouthful. "We could use someone purely decorative. Balance the crew. Equipment." "Because there are 4 berths," Emily said. 4.5, Marcus said. "That V berth up front?" "No," Jason said. "And shut the damn lid on the cooler? We don't have ice for your performance art." Marcus grinned and shut it. "Captain says hydrate and behave." Noted. The day rounded into afternoon. Wind pulled a little right, they corrected, and the Persephone hummed the easy note of a boat behaving. Lila came to stand next to Jason at the mast. She didn't touch him. She didn't need to. He felt her the way you feel a front moving in, pressure changing, something behind your ears clicking. He stared at the leech of the main and pretended he was thinking about weather. "You look like you swallowed a hook," she said. "Must be the bread," he said. "Bread doesn't make your eyes look like that." "Don't, Lila. I'm not doing anything." "That's the problem." Her smile was small and complicated. She glanced back. Emily had her face in the chart book, pencil working. "How long do you think you can keep both worlds standing?" Lila's voice was low. "They don't like each other, Jason?" "They both want to be the only one." He tightened the halyard 1 pointless half-inch. "We said we were done." "You said it," she said. I nodded. "That's not the same." He wanted to tell her he was sorry. He wanted to ask her to leave. He wanted Emily to turn around and ask right then, make him pick, drag it all into light where lies die and true things get their teeth back. Instead, he said, "Go draw something," and hated himself for how soft it came out. She went. That evening, they ate canned chili and crackers. Marcus decorated his with hot sauce and lies. Lila laughed on the wrong beats. Emily stacked bowls like she could make order out of sound. Jason watched a long bruise of cloud feathering low in the west and thought about ballast and failure and how some mistakes are only mistakes until they aren't. When they turned in, Emily slid in next to him without touching. "You going to sleep?" she asked. "Eventually." "Try." He tried, and the boat creaked and breathed. Water whispered along the hull. Every small noise felt like a question. When he finally dropped off, it was the shallow plunge of a man who knows he's still in a room where a bomb sits under the bed. On the second day out, the sea changed color, green-blue giving way to blue-blue, and the wind came up stronger. The Persephone wore it well, shouldering along at 6s and 7s. Marcus sang to himself at the helm, his pitch wandering. Emily wrote in the log with a grim, neat hand. Lila slept in a patch of sun, mouth slightly open, the curve of her throat bare. Jason stared so long his eyes hurt, then punished himself with a deck scrub that didn't need doing. When Emily appeared with a rag and a look, he surrendered the brush without a fight. "I know," he said. "Do you?" she said. He considered telling her everything right there. The motel, the way the floor had tilted when he kissed Lila like gravity was offended, the word afterward that stuck in his mouth like a bee. Mistake, mistake, mistake. He didn't. He said, "I know I've been a bastard." "That's an opening sentence," she said. "It needs a paragraph." "Not here," he said. "When?" she asked. He didn't answer, and the day went on without him. Night, watch, lamps dimmed. Marcus talked in his sleep. Lila sat up in the cockpit under a blanket and drew the moon on paper that already smelled like salt. Jason took a turn at the helm and pretended the weight in his chest was only weather again. He'd sailed enough miles to trust that the ocean would always remind him who was in charge, but the third night felt personal. The breeze fell away to almost nothing. a waiting kind of still, and clouds rolled in without the usual courtesies. Air changed. Even a novice could feel it. Emily came up, took one long look, and didn't say the obvious. "Storm?" Marcus asked from the companionway, hair sticking up, voice thick. "Maybe a squall," Jason said. "Let's reef and play conservative." They reefed. He kept one eye on the horizon where night had developed bones. Just after midnight, the ocean found its teeth. The first impact felt like someone drove a car into the hull. A true blunt, heavy slam, low and forward on the port side, wrong as a fist in a church. Jason lunged into the companionway and took the ladder 3 at a time. In the cabin, cupboards flew open and spilled cans. The sound under his feet wasn't a creak. It was the protest of structure that wants to be not structure anymore. "Emily! Topside!" he shouted. "Marcus, with me!" "What was that?" Marcus said, but he was already moving, grabbing for the emergency kit. "Hit something," Jason snapped. "Whale, log, I don't care." Raft. Now. Lila came up barefoot, hair wild, sketchbook clutched against her chest like a talisman she suddenly realized was made of paper and denial. "Do I—" "Drop it," Jason barked. "Grab the ditch bag. Batteries, flares, first aid, move." She flinched and did what he said. Emily shoveled a tangle of gear toward the hatch. Water surged across the cabin sole, cold as anesthesia and twice as rude. The bilge alarm screamed, then hiccuped, then went thin. Jason ripped the EPIRB off its mount, thumbed the switch, and saw the stuttering blink he needed. "Beacons on," he said. "Let's pray the sky gives a shit." On deck, the wind ran its hands through the rig like a thief. Black water rose in close swells that looked like dark backs. Rain had the decency to hold off long enough to let them think for 30 seconds they might control this. "Raft!" Jason shouted. Marcus had it half-dragged, cursing, fingers slipping. Jason helped heave it to the rail. He yanked the lanyard. The canister coughed, then the raft inflated in a throaty whoosh, rubber blooming into shivering orange. The Persephone listed. Not a slow lean. A hard slide to starboard that told a truth Jason didn't want. He heard the wrong noise again, structure giving up, followed by a sucking rush below them that meant water had found a path and wanted to widen it. "Emily, over," he said. "Now." "I can help." "Over." He shoved the EPIRB into her hands. "Don't drop that." "I'll be behind you." She went, legs jackknifing, a thin cry torn off by wind. Marcus followed without grace. Lila lingered one fraction of a second too long, eyes on the black water like it could answer something she hadn't asked out loud. Jason grabbed her under the arms and pitched them both, the world flipping and swallowing and spitting them into slap and cold and chaos. The raft bobbed 3 strokes away, orange against night, a stupid toy for a problem this size. Marcus hauled Jason's shoulder, and they rolled in together, Lila collapsing half across his chest. Emily crouched, shaking, both hands white-knuckled around the beacon. "Cut the painter," Jason said between breaths. Marcus slashed the line. The raft bucked away as the Persephone lurched, groaned, and began her final act. She went down like a body, stern high, bow gulping, rigging shrieking. The last thing to go under was the masthead light, a solitary little star drowning in a blacker sky. And then the boat was gone. There was no triumph in surviving it, only breathing and the ugly knowledge of how naked the world gets when your floor falls away. Wind should have screamed. Rain should have taken over. Instead, a confused quiet settled, the kind that comes after a fight when you're not sure if a second swing's coming. The raft rocked. The ocean swept past in slow black shoulders. Emily hugged the beacon as if it could heat her. "You got it on?" "I saw it blinking," Jason said. He heard his own voice and didn't like the sound. Flat, edged, already calling for order like a drunk calls for a drink. It's transmitting. I didn't see it blink, Marcus said, gulping air. Are you sure? I said it's transmitting. They breathed. Their bodies remembered after a minute. Fingers tingled. Teeth chattered. Lila wiped hair from her eyes and stared where the boat had been. We should... What do we... Marcus said, words tripping over shock. Inventory, Jason answered. Right now. What made it in? They had a knife, 3 flares in a cracked plastic case, 2 Mylar blankets, 1 emergency ration pack that already felt like a joke, the EPIRB cradled in Emily's lap, and a solar still Jason had grabbed without thinking because he didn't know who he was without pointless hope. No water aside from the 8-ounce bottle Lila had shoved in the ditch bag on instinct. 8 ounces, Emily said, shaking it. The bottle sloshed small. That's 1 mouthful each. That's 2 mouthfuls total. Split 4 ways, Marcus said, a laugh caught on the wrong side of his throat. Math. Lila looked at the water, eyes too wide. Something hit us, she said, voice very quiet. It didn't feel like a log. It doesn't matter what it was, Jason said. It matters to me, she said, and swallowed hard. It matters where it went. The raft wobbled under a single slow pressure, like a palm pushed up from below and then withdrew. All 4 of them felt it. No one said a word. Jason gripped the rubber tube until his knuckles ached. He had a stupid, powerful urge to apologize to the night. For what? He couldn't have said. For everything, probably. Stay centered, he said. Don't lean. Don't hang anything over. We keep weight even, and we wait for daylight. Marcus put his forehead against his forearm and let out a small, choked sound. Emily closed her eyes and counted breaths like she was measuring medicine. Lila sat with her hands on her knees and stared into the water as if it had been waiting for them a very long time. A little while later, the raft shivered again. Another stroke along the underside. Curious, deliberate, not a wave. Jason's stomach rolled in a way that had nothing to do with the sea. Probably a shark, Marcus said too loudly. Just bumping. Sharks don't stroke, Emily said. They drifted. The night didn't end so much as thin at the edges. The sky got less black. Wind fell away. The ocean showed its surface instead of its shape. Jason watched the color come back into the world, every bruise of it. He didn't sleep. He didn't plan. He just kept his hand on the knife, as if the right grip could convince reality to back down. When daylight finally found them, it revealed nothing but water in every direction, and the 4 small lives on a rubber island not much bigger than a coffin lid. The Persephone was a story now. The marina was a dream. The world had gone very simple and very cruel. Jason's lips were already split. His head throbbed where it had met a bulkhead in the dark. Emily's eyes were rimmed in red salt. Marcus looked hollowed out. Lila looked awake in a way that worried him. Okay, he said, voice sanded down. We ration. We stabilize. We wait. For what? Marcus asked. Rescue, Jason said, because the alternative was saying nothing, and he wasn't ready for that yet. Another slow pressure nudged the raft from below and slid away. He didn't look down. Below draft, beneath the calm. Part 2. Recoil and fracture. Sunrise didn't look like rescue. It looked like mercy that ran out halfway. The light came up thin, bleaching everything. Faces, rubber, water, into one colorless smear. No birds, no ships, just the kind of silence that carries weight. Jason's shoulders locked from holding the same crouch all night. Every movement scraped raw skin against salt, stiff cloth. His stomach clenched in dry waves that pretended to be hunger. When he reached for the knife wedged beside him, it felt like touching somebody else's hand. Emily was already awake. She'd taken the EPIRB apart and put it back together twice, as if new blinking might appear through force of will. "Still sending," she murmured, not to anyone. "Still sending, still sending." Marcus grunted. "To who?" "Neptune." "Shut up," Jason said automatically. Marcus leaned back, squinting at the horizon. "You think anyone even looks at those signals? Whole goddamn ocean out here. We're a blip." "Then stop wasting breath," Jason said. "Breath's water." Emily shot him a look that could have been agreement or blame. Hard to tell anymore. Lila stayed quiet, sketchbook ruined in her lap, paper bloated from seawater. She kept tracing lines with a broken pencil, leaving no marks. By mid-morning, the sun had teeth. The raft turned into a skillet. Rubber gave off the chemical stink of melting tires. They rigged the torn tarp for shade, but it just funneled heat. Emily counted supplies. Half a pouch of beans, a few nuts, water we split in drops. That's it. Marcus laughed once, dry. "We'll have to start drinking each other." "Bagsy, not Jason. He looks stringy." Lila's voice was flat. "You'd taste like sunscreen and bad decisions." Marcus blinked, then chuckled. "There she is." The poet wakes. Jason ignored them. He watched the line where the sea met sky. Too flat. Too calm. He wanted waves. Waves meant wind, and wind meant direction. This stillness felt like waiting for something that already knew your name. That afternoon, the first argument came over water. Emily measured out a capful for each of them. Jason drank slow. Marcus upended his cap straight into his mouth, then licked the rim. "You idiot," Emily snapped. "You just spilled half of it?" "It's mine to spill," Marcus said. "You said equal share." "Equal doesn't mean waste." "Equal means equal," he shot back. "You're not Queen of Thirst." Jason cut in. "Enough." Marcus's jaw flexed. "Sure, Captain." Jason met his eyes. The look held for too long. Something unspoken, old and sharp, moved between them before Marcus looked away. Lila broke it with a whisper. "Something's under us." The others turned. A faint shadow moved beneath the raft, about the size of a man, maybe bigger. Sunlight bent around it. The shape drifted close, then veered away. Marcus leaned over. "Probably a shark." "It's not swimming like one," Emily said. The thing curved back. Jason caught a glint. Metallic, not silver, not scale. Then it was gone. Only ripples left. Lila touched the edge of the raft. "It brushed us." Jason's stomach tightened. "Don't hang over." "No limbs in the water. Ever." Marcus smirked. "Relax. It's just a fish." "Then it'll find other fish to bother," Jason said. But an hour later it came back, or another like it, longer, redder. The surface bulged slightly as if a breath moved beneath. One pale tentacle, lifted through the reflection, barely breaking it, then sank again. Lila laughed once, uneasy. "It's kind of beautiful." Marcus grinned. "That's dinner, if we can snag it." Jason stared at the tiny round mark left on the rubber where it had touched. The faintest ring of suction. He didn't answer. By evening, conversation thinned. Heat had baked them hollow. Jason dozed and woke in fragments. When his eyes opened, Emily was muttering numbers, latitude guesses, ration counts, days since departure. Her voice was sandpaper. Marcus had stripped to his shorts and was fishing with a length of rope and a bent hook, humming tunelessly. Lila sat near the edge, feet tucked under, eyes fixed on the water. "Stop leaning forward," Jason said. "I'm fine." "You're not. Move back." She didn't. "You ever think about what's underneath all this?" how deep it goes. I try not to. You can't help it. You look down and your brain fills in the dark. Marcus snorted. Jesus, you two are depressing. Shut up and fish, Jason said, and he caught nothing. Just empty hook and shredded line that looked gnawed, not snapped. Night came fast. They huddled under the tarp, knees touching. Stars came out bright and cruel. No one slept. The raft moved with slow, uneven bumps, too regular to be waves. Feel that? Marcus whispered. Yeah, Jason said. Could be current. Could be something pushing. Marcus gave a low laugh that didn't sound amused. Maybe it likes us, Emily's voice cracked. Don't say that. The bumps stopped. For a while they listened to their own hearts. Then a sound, a wet slurp, faint but close, drifted up from beneath. Jason's grip on the knife tightened. He peered over the side. Nothing. Just black water and moonlight. He told himself it was nothing. Day 3. Lips split, eyes sunburned. The stillness inside them worse than thirst. Marcus started talking to himself, building jokes no one answered. Emily stopped talking altogether. Lila hummed lullabies she half remembered from childhood. Jason caught her looking at him. What? You keep staring at the horizon like you can steer with your eyes. It beats staring at nothing. You think we're cursed? We're unlucky. Cursed is lazy thinking. Unlucky's just cursed with manners, she said softly. He didn't reply. That afternoon, a thin drizzle came and went. Not enough to collect, just enough to sting. Marcus opened his mouth to the sky, laughing. Emily muttered about bacteria. Jason just tilted his head back and let a few drops hit his tongue before they stopped. When the light began to fail, Marcus said, Something's back. He pointed. A reddish blur spiraled beneath them, slow and deliberate. It rose close enough that the water bulged. A single tentacle unfurled up through the surface, 5 inches thick, lined with white discs that flexed and released. It brushed Marcus's ankle before sinking. He jerked back with a shout. The fuck was that? Get in the middle, Jason barked. I'm trying. Lila stared at the disturbed water, eyes wide, fascinated. It looked at us. Emily's voice trembled. Squids don't get that big. Jason didn't answer. He pressed a hand to the spot where it had touched. The rubber was slick with a faint residue, sticky and sour-smelling. Marcus wiped his leg on his shorts, cursing under his breath. We need a weapon. Jason held up the knife. We have one. Yeah? You planning to stab the ocean? No one laughed. That night, sleep was an idea no one could afford. The water made small, careful sounds, as if something large was trying to be quiet. Every so often, the raft dipped, once, twice, and came back. At some point, Marcus whispered, They're hunting. Shut up, Emily hissed. You feel it too, he said, like they're counting us. Jason said nothing. He did feel it, the rhythm, the pattern, not waves, something moving in circles. He thought of the Persephone, of the first blow, and a possibility he'd shoved away rose again. What if it hadn't been a whale? He sat up, listening. The tapping under the raft came again, soft, regular, like knuckles on a door. Lila shifted closer. Jason? Go back to sleep. No one's sleeping. Then stay still. The tapping stopped. Morning bled gray. Emily's face was hollow, her lips white. Marcus had a tremor in his hands he tried to hide. Jason felt his own pulse in his temples. Lila sat tracing the suction ring from the day before with her fingertip. Don't touch that, Jason said. It's dry. Still, don't. She looked up. You think it's them again? I think it doesn't matter what I think. Marcus snorted. Captain Inspiration strikes again. Jason turned on him. You want to take command? Be my guest. Marcus's mouth opened, then shut. He looked away. Emily whispered, Stop it. Please. Jason exhaled, long and ragged. We're all just trying to keep breathing. Lila's voice barely above a whisper. Something's wrong with the water. Jason frowned. What do you mean? It's warm. He reached over the side. She was right. The top inch felt feverish. The cold below had vanished. Marcus spat over the edge. Let it boil. I'm done being scared of fish. The water rippled where his spit landed. Then, faintly, something answered from beneath, a slow rolling push that lifted the raft an inch and let it fall again. Once, twice, as if acknowledging him. Emily clutched the beacon. They know we're here. No one corrected her. By nightfall, the sea went still again. The air carried the smell of iron, faint and wrong. They sat in silence, listening to every small sound their own bodies made. The raft twitched now and then, small upward pulses like a heartbeat, not their own. Lila broke first. I used to think the ocean was romantic, she said. All that mystery. It's just mouths. Miles and miles of mouths. Jason didn't answer. Emily closed her eyes. Tomorrow. Someone will find us tomorrow. Sure, Marcus said quietly. If there's anything left to find. Jason wanted to tell him to shut up. Instead, he looked at the knife lying between them and wondered, for the first time, which would come first. Thirst, madness, or whatever waited under the raft. The tapping came again, soft, patient, unhurried. Nobody spoke after that. Part 3. Confession and First Threat. Dawn looked sickly, a jaundiced smear of light that flattened every shadow instead of chasing them away. The raft stank of sweat and rubber. Jason's tongue felt like paper. He sat half upright, knife balanced on his thigh, trying to remember what it felt like to wake up indoors. Emily stirred first. She'd slept maybe an hour, knees to chest, arms wrapped around the beacon, as if clutching proof that they still existed. She turned toward him. Her eyes were cracked, the blue gone cloudy. Anything? She asked. No ships, he said, no birds. Just them. He didn't point, he didn't have to. The water pulsed with slow red light beneath them, faint glimmers that came and went like something breathing. Emily watched it, then looked away. I dreamed the raft flipped, she said. We were underneath and they were above. Jason said, Don't tell me dreams. We got enough real shit. By mid-morning, Marcus was pacing again. He'd developed a limp from banging his shin against the CO2 tank during the storm, and every few steps he kicked the side tube like it owed him money. Still think we wait, he said. We can paddle. Drift east. Maybe pick up current. With what? Jason said. We lost the oars. Then use hands, Marcus snapped. Or this goddamn tarp. Anything. We move, we attract attention. From them. Marcus laughed harshly. They already know we're here. Emily said, currents could take us south. Toward colder water. Toward nothing. Marcus threw up his hands. You got a better idea, Doc? Jason watched the two of them spar until he realized the energy in Marcus wasn't fear anymore. It was heat looking for fuel. Cool it, he said. You're wasting air. Marcus turned on him. You like sitting still. That's what you do. Sit still and lie till the room fills with smoke. Emily frowned. What's that supposed to mean? Ask him, Marcus said. Jason's gut went tight. But Marcus wasn't looking at him. He was looking at Lila. Ask your little friend. Lila froze. Her eyes cut to Jason, then to Emily, then down. Emily's face went blank. every muscle tightening under the skin like cords. "What is he talking about?" she said. Jason's mouth went dry. "Not now." Emily laughed, short and ugly. "Oh, I think now is perfect." Lila said quietly, "Don't." "Shut up," Emily snapped, and the words hit like a slap. "You think I didn't see the looks? You think I'm stupid?" Marcus grinned, drunk on the damage. "Captain here's been steering 2 ships, sweetheart." "Marcus," Jason said, voice low. "Stop." "Why?" "It's about time we had some honesty around here." Emily stared at Jason. "Tell me." He should have lied again. Habit wanted him to. But the heat, the smell, the endless water, everything stripped language down to truth. "It happened once," he said. "It's over." Emily's laugh cracked in the middle. "Once?" Lila whispered. Emily!" Emily lunged at her, and the raft tilted hard. Jason grabbed for both women. Marcus caught the tarp line. For one wild second, Jason thought they'd all go over. The water slapped up and came down again. "Get back," he shouted. "You'll flip us." Emily sat back, shaking. Lila's eyes filled, but she didn't cry. Marcus wiped his mouth, still smiling. "Well," he said, "that's lighter air already." Jason turned on him. "You ever open your mouth again, I'll shut it for good." "Promises, promises." The argument drained what little energy they had left. No one spoke for hours. The raft drifted. The sun climbed and the water beneath stayed red. Late afternoon brought the smell, metal and rot, faint at first. Jason thought it was imagination until Marcus sniffed and said, "Jesus, something's dead." A slick floated near the raft, translucent meat, 1/2 meter long, torn open from inside. A squid, smaller than the ones they'd seen below, its skin pulsing faintly, as if refusing to accept the idea of being dead. One eye bulged, clouded white. The other stared up at the sun. Emily covered her mouth. That's one of them." "Looks like it lost a fight," Marcus said. "With what?" Layla whispered. Jason said nothing. The sight shouldn't have scared him. It was proof that whatever hunted them could bleed. But the idea of something big enough to kill a creature like that was worse. The corpse brushed the raft and rolled under. When it did, Jason felt a drag, a deep suction. The raft shifted sideways a foot, then let go. The slick vanished. Below them, the glow thickened. "Cut the line," he said. "What line?" Emily asked. "Anything hanging. Rope, tarp, doesn't matter. Cut it." Marcus snorted. "That'll save us." "Do it," Jason barked, and his voice had the authority of fear, finally winning. They cut. The sound of knife through wet nylon felt loud enough to summon gods. When it was done, they sat panting like they'd run miles. Night came without stars. Jason kept the knife ready. Emily dozed, one arm across her chest. Lila watched the black horizon, her lips moving. Marcus drank the last of the water while everyone pretended not to notice. He finished, wiped his mouth, and said, "You going to kill me for that, Captain?" Jason stared at him. "Not yet." Marcus chuckled. "See, that's the thing. You talk like a guy still in charge, but you're just another asshole on a float full of assholes." "Go to sleep," Jason said. "I'm not tired." "Then shut up." Marcus leaned closer. "You ever think maybe the ocean doesn't hate us? Maybe it's waiting for us to do what it wants." "And what's that?" He smiled. "Feed it." The first attack came near midnight. A violent jolt threw them all sideways. Water splashed up through the floor seam. Jason grabbed the knife and felt the rubber pulse under his hand as if a heartbeat ran through it. Marcus screamed something incoherent. Emily clutched the beacon to her chest. Lila stared down at the black surface where red light pulsed in clusters, hundreds of them. Arms hit the raft. Not one or two, dozens, slapping, rapping, tightening. The sound was obscene, wet suction on skin. Jason slashed downward, the blade met resistance, and hot, slick fluid sprayed his wrist. The limb recoiled, thrashing. He saw it clearly for a second, an arm as long as his body, the white discs rimmed with teeth. Emily screamed. One of the arms coiled around Marcus's calf. He hacked with a flare gun, missed, and screamed again as it pulled. Jason lunged, slicing. The arm released, leaving a ring of raw meat where the skin had come away. "Inside!" Jason shouted. "Stay center!" They huddled in a pile, the raft rocking violently. More arms rose, some short, some impossibly long. They smacked the tubes, searching for weakness. One hit the seam near Jason's hip. Air hissed. He jammed the knife into it, sealing it with his palm, like he could hold pressure by force. The assault stopped as suddenly as it began. The water stilled. The night went quiet except for their ragged breathing. Marcus was sobbing, clutching his leg. Blood ran down into the raft's bottom pool. Lila pressed her hand to it, trying to stanch the flow. "Don't touch me," Marcus said, shoving her away. "Don't." "It's bleeding bad," she said. "Then let it," he snarled. "Maybe they'll take me first." "Shut up," Jason said. "You want them back?" Marcus laughed, hysterical now. "They never left?" Morning found them half mad with fatigue. The pod stayed invisible, but the water bulged now and then like something massive exhaled beneath them. Marcus's leg had swollen purple. The wound was a perfect circle, scalloped like a cookie cutter. Emily tried to clean it with a scrap of shirt dipped in salt water, but he screamed and kicked her away. "They poisoned me," he said. "You see that? It burns." "Let me look." "Touch me again and I'll throw you in." Jason said, "Enough. You need it cleaned." "Fuck you," Marcus said. "You don't give orders anymore." He reached for the knife. Jason's hand was faster. They grappled. The raft pitched. Emily screamed. Lila pulled at Marcus's shoulder. He elbowed her in the face without looking. Blood sprayed from her nose. Jason wrenched the knife free and pressed it to Marcus's throat. "Sit down," he said. Marcus froze. The cut on his neck leaked a single line of red. He sat. Jason kept the knife out for a long time before lowering it. No one spoke after that. The hierarchy had changed. By sunset, Marcus was shaking with fever. He muttered nonsense and laughed to himself. The others ignored him until he started whispering names, Jason's, Lila's, Emily's, like a prayer with too many syllables. He looked up suddenly. "They talk," he said. "Under the water. You can hear them if you listen, right?" Emily shivered. "Marcus." "They want to trade," he said. "One of us for the rest." Jason said, "You need rest." Marcus smiled. "You're right. You're the captain. You should be the one." He lunged. Jason twisted aside, grabbed his wrist, and shoved. Marcus hit the tube, bounced, and half fell over the edge. For a second he hung there, eyes wild, mouth open in a scream that didn't come. Then the water erupted. A dozen arms shot upward, coiling around him, pulling him down so fast it looked like gravity had changed direction. He screamed once, a raw animal sound, and vanished. The ocean boiled red. Emily screamed. Lila covered her face. Jason just stared at the widening circle of dark water. Nothing floated back. When the waves settled, the raft rocked once and went still. Underneath, red light flickered, one long pulse like a heartbeat. Lila whispered, "They took him." Jason said he gave himself. They didn't speak again that night. The sea whispered against the raft's sides. Somewhere deep below, something answered. Part 4. Hallucinations. The next sunrise didn't look like hope. It looked like a stain spread thin across the horizon, yellow then white, burning away color until the sea and sky were the same exhausted shade. The raft drifted in a film of water that smelled like iron and spoiled meat. No wind, no kindness, just the slow rise and fall below, like a giant chest breathing under a sheet. Marcus was gone, and the raft felt different without him, lighter in a way that wasn't relief. Jason didn't know what to do with that. Emily sat with the beacon in her lap, as if it were a living thing, thumbs worrying its edges until the pads bled. Lila had gone gray under the sunburn, her lips cracked and blistered, eyes too wide and too quiet. "He's still down there," Lila said finally, voice calm in a way that made Jason want to shake her. "Don't," he said. "You saw the water. You heard them. They took him and kept him. That's what they do." Emily stared at the horizon like she could force a ship out of it. "Stop, please." Lila turned her head, studying Emily. "You believe in a God that listens. Why is this harder?" "Because I can smell him," Emily said, jaw tight. "Dead doesn't listen." Jason rubbed at the salt in his lashes and looked down at his hands. They didn't look like his hands anymore. The skin around his nails had turned raw and white. The cuts along his knuckles had gone the color of old fruit. He flexed and they cracked and bled a little more. And he didn't feel it until a second later, when the sting came in a wave. At noon, the raft drifted through a milky slick. Bits of soft, translucent meat floated in it, tentacle tips, gelatinous ribbons, scattered cartilage like chewed fingernails. The sun made it all fluorescent. Lila tore pages from her ruined sketchbook and set them on the water one by one, watching each page sag and sink without a ripple. "Stop that," Jason said. "We're not feeding anything." "I'm not feeding," she said. "I'm asking." "For what?" "For mercy," she said. "Or a faster ending." "Same prayer." Emily gagged and leaned over to vomit. Jason caught her by the back of the shirt. "Don't put your head down there." She wiped her mouth with the back of her hand. "We're breathing them anyway." "You smell it?" He did. A copper-sweet rot that stuck to the throat. He swallowed and it stayed. The light went hard and flat. Shadows disappeared. Time became the inching slow of sweat running down a forearm to the wrist and drying there. They took turns under what was left of the shade. No one slept. The ocean had the patience to wait them out. The pod didn't need to rush. "I keep thinking about the motel," Lila said. So suddenly Jason flinched. "You remember the smell?" Cheap cleaner and wet carpet. The way the window rattled when a truck went past. "Don't," he said. She looked at him like he'd said something funny. "You were shaking," she said softly. "Not nervous. Angry. You kept looking at the door like someone was going to walk in. Then you said, 'I don't do this,' while you were doing it." He pressed his tongue to a split in his lip and tasted blood. Emily watched the water, expression blank. Maybe she wasn't listening. Maybe she was listening to every word. "We said it was wrong," Lila went on. "We said it into each other's mouths." That makes people feel better, saying a bad thing out loud while they do it. Like confession before the sin finishes. "Enough," he said. "Okay." She turned her face back to the water. "I dreamed last night that the raft flipped and we were underneath, and they made a ceiling with their arms and didn't let us up." Jason looked out across the flat distance and thought about how quiet real decisions are. No drum roll, no speech, just a line in ahead, and then a step over it. By late afternoon, the glow returned below them, faint at first, then brighter, like combs of light being pulled through red hair. Emily tightened her hold on the beacon. She'd begun tapping it every hour, as if sound could wake up satellites. "Signal's still flashing," she said. "They don't care," Lila answered. They're busy. They have their own cities down there. Stop talking like that, Emily said. And there was a little fear in it now. Please. Like what? Like you know them. I don't know them, Lila said. I know attention when I feel it. Jason closed his eyes and, behind the lids, saw the Persephone unchanged. Sails full and honest, deck dry, lines clean. Marcus at the bow laughing. Emily beside him, hand on his shoulder, Lila below, drawing the curve of the hull. He opened his eyes and saw the raft, the stink, the sun. He tried again, and this time saw the motel instead. The ugly bedspread, the buzzing air unit, his wedding ring in his pocket, as if that made anything different. Lila's hair across his mouth, her voice against his ear saying, You can't live in 2 rooms at once, and his answer, Watch me, like an idiot. Jason, Emily said. He looked up. Promise me, she said. If a boat finds us, you won't leave me here while you climb first. What? You heard me. I'm not leaving you. Promise. I promise. She watched him, and he knew she weighed the word and found it light. Dusk came without a gradient. 1 minute glare, the next a bruised smear, then dark. The sea lit in streaks, red and ghostly, and the pod wrote their circles under the raft. Emily whispered numbers, breath catching on each 3rd digit. Lila began to hum, low. 1 note, then another, then a line of melody that might have been a lullaby before she changed it into something else. Stop, Jason said. It calms them, she said. You don't know that. I do, she said, and smiled without joy. They like rhythm. He reached and gripped her wrist. He didn't squeeze hard. She looked at his fingers on her skin like he'd set a hot coin there. You couldn't control me then, she said. You can't control them now. He let go. The first shove came an hour later, not a hit. A push. The raft lurched a foot sideways. Emily yelped. Lila's hand landed on Jason's knee and stayed there. Another shove. Another. Then arms, so many arms Jason couldn't count, rose and draped over the tubes, the white discs flexing and releasing in wet little kisses. He slashed at the closest in black fluid, sprayed his forearm, and smoked. The arm recoiled, and another took its place. Center! He yelled. Stay, center! Emily crawled toward the middle. 1 arm wrapped her waist, then another. Jason grabbed her shoulders and cut. The blade went through rubbery flesh, and the limb jerked back, dropping her. The raft pitched, and the floor dipped under weight, then rose as the pod released in sync, testing the buoyancy, measuring. Don't fire, he shouted when he saw Emily groping for the flare gun. Light brings them. She fired anyway. The flare tore red across the dark, hissed into the water, and blew a bubble of brightness that threw the shapes into relief. For an instant, Jason saw the pod like a topographical map. Bodies as long as the raft, some longer, fins rippling, arm crowns braided together, eyes huge and reflective, like cameras. The light died, and the night closed around them with a sound like hands clapping. The sea erupted. Arms came over the sides by the dozen, wrapping, tasting, pulling. The noise was obscene. Suction on rubber, on skin, on fabric. Jason hacked. Emily kicked. Lila screamed when one of the arms caught her ankle and clamped. He saw the rings on the disc, teeth in a circle, open and grip and suck blood through her skin. Hold still, he barked. She didn't. The pain took control. She jerked away, and another arm took her by the knee. The raft slid an inch toward the circle of red glow. A third arm came around her hips and lifted. Jason, Emily screamed. He dove and grabbed Lila under the arms. The arm around her waist flexed and pulled. Jason felt her come up a foot, and then down another foot, until her legs were in the water, past the knees and the arms below braided, in quick white coils around her shins and calves and ankles like living rope. He cut once, twice. The blade bounced off hard ring rims and sank into soft meat and stuck. "Get the rope!" he shouted. Emily scrambled and found the painter line, looped it around Lila's chest under her arms. The next pull almost took all three of them. Jason braced his feet against the cross tube and hauled until the rope burned his palms and the skin went away. Lila's head snapped back and her mouth opened, and nothing came out. For a second, Jason saw the girl from the motel, the one who had said, "We should stop," and then leaned in, there in that face. And then the pod surged in unison and pulled her another foot out over the edge. Something large moved beneath, so close the raft lifted on its back. He saw one eye pass under them, big as a dinner plate, glossy, reflecting a smear of red light. It rolled up at him, and he felt looked at. Not like a fish looks, like a person might. The beak opened once and closed, and the sound it made had no right to exist above the surface. The rope snapped with a sound like a bone breaking. Lila slid over the side like she belonged to the water. She kicked once on instinct, connected with nothing, and vanished in a cyclone of arms. He fired a flare straight into the circle, and for one cold second saw her again, waist deep in a braid of white limbs, hands reaching up, mouth open, eyes too wide. Then the beak cut her at the ribs, and everything went red in a way that turned the air into blood. Emily hit him. Twice. Hard. Her fists felt weak and wild at the same time. She said words he didn't understand because the screaming in the water drowned them. He held her by the wrists until the raft stopped shaking and the pod let go and the night smoothed. The circle below sliding apart, satisfied. He realized he was shaking only when his teeth clicked. Emily tore her hands free and crawled to the edge and slapped the water. Come back, you... And then she said a single sound that wasn't a word and folded over, and he grabbed her by the belt and dragged her back. Minutes passed, maybe hours. The raft settled. The glow dimmed but didn't leave. Jason wiped the knife on his shorts and kept his hand on it because the weight calmed him, not because it would help. He felt the world tilt inside him and didn't try to stop it. "Look at me," Emily said finally. He did. "You let her go." "She slipped," he said. "You let her go," she said again. And her voice had quiet in it that scared him more than anger. "You did the same thing twice." "She was gone," he said. "They had her." "You tell yourself stories," she said. "You always did. You think saying them out loud makes them true." "You want truth?" he asked. "Here it is. If I hadn't cut, they'd have taken both of you." She laughed once, a raw tear of sound. "You're good at surviving. You should have told me that when I met you." Flashback. A kitchen, bright morning, their first year together. Emily's hands in soapy water, laughing at something on the radio. He'd kissed the back of her neck and thought, "I got lucky." Later, he'd stood in a motel shower with Lila, the water beating hard on his skull, hearing the traffic outside, thinking, "This isn't me," and then doing it again anyway, because what else do you call the thing you keep choosing? "I'm going to tell the truth when we're rescued," Emily said. "About all of it." He looked past her, past the raft to the low smear of cloud. He didn't see a ship yet. He imagined one. He imagined the questions. He imagined the years. He watched the glow under them change shape. Wide circle, narrow, then a ring that drifted a little farther off, as if something inside it had turned and was now facing away from the raft, watching the wider dark. "Then we should make sure we're rescued," he said. She narrowed her eyes. "What does that mean?" "It means we don't fire flares at the water again," he said. "It means we don't lean. It means we hold still and wait for dawn." She studied him. You hear them too, she said. I hear the sea, he said. No, she said. You hear them. He didn't answer. They held still. The night grew a skin. He listened to the little sounds, the tick of cooling rubber, the faint hiss where the seam had wept, the soft bump under his right knee every few minutes, regular as a pulse. He counted the bumps until he reached 100, and then started again. He waited for the sun like a man waits for a verdict. He dreamed with his eyes open. The Persephone hole again. Lila on the motel bed with her hair still wet from the shower, making a fist and pressing it into her chest like she could stop whatever was happening to her heart. Emily holding a fish on the dock the year they met, laughing at how it flopped and slapped and then went still. Marcus walking backward toward the water with his hands raised like a kid saying, "Don't shoot." The pod beneath the raft making a mouth out of arms and telling him to feed it. Dawn came. It turned the ocean gray, then white, then the thin blue of a bruise just before it fades. A ship's horn sounded somewhere far off. Low. Once, then again closer. Jason flinched like someone had fired a gun beside his ear. He saw it. A smudge at first, then a shape. A rust-streaked trawler cutting steady. The horn bellowed. He laughed and covered his mouth because it sounded wrong, and then he laughed again because he couldn't stop. Emily started to cry. Not the tearing sobs from before. Quiet crying that looked like breath hurting on the way out. "We're here," she said, as if she'd landed somewhere. The glow below them dimmed. The ring drifted farther out, then reformed just off the raft's bow. Patient. Waiting. The surface between raft and ship looked glassy and harmless and fake. "They're close," Emily said. "We need to signal." Flares waved, dash, dash. "Not yet," Jason said. "What do you mean, not yet?" "They see us," he said. "Wait till they're closer." She stared at him. Recognition moved through her face like a shadow. "Don't," she said. "Don't what?" "Don't think it," she said. "Don't even look at the water like that." He looked anyway. The ring had drifted nearer again, arms ghosted just under the surface, white against blue, uncoiling and recoiling in a rhythm that matched the slow push from the ship's wake. The horn sounded again, and the pod answered with a single, low pulse of light, like a heartbeat returned. Emily rose to her knees, waving both arms. "Here! Here!" Her voice broke. "Here!" The ship kept coming. Men moved on the rail, small at this distance. One pointed, another shouted. A rope lay coiled, ready to throw. Jason stood. He took Emily's arm. It wasn't rough. It wasn't gentle either. She looked at his hand like she couldn't believe it existed. "Don't," she said again, but she didn't pull back. "You were going to tell them," he said softly. "Yes." "You were going to tell them what I did." "Yes." "You were going to tell them I let him go and didn't save her." "Yes," she said, and lifted her chin. "I am." He nodded, as if he'd been waiting for a line that only now had been said out loud. "I'm sorry," he said. "I am." He didn't give himself time to think. He moved the way you move when you already decided in the dark hours, and the sun only made it visible. One hand at the back of her head, the other at her ribs. He stepped with his whole body and pushed her toward the bow, toward the ring, toward the surface that looked like glass and wasn't. She went backwards with a sound like a question. Her heel caught the tube. She pinwheeled for balance and grabbed his wrist. He twisted, and she lost it. She hit the water clean, arms out, hair spreading. The ring closed like a mouth. He saw her face once more, eyes huge, mouth open, hair slicked across her cheek. He saw the first arm take her at the waist, another around a thigh, a third at the calf. He saw the beak rise under and the water bulge with its size. He saw the white discs flex and bite and pull. He didn't look away. The ship horn bellowed again, much closer now. Men shouted in English and Spanish. A rope splashed near the raft. He picked it up and tied it off with a clean bowline because his hands remembered how. He put his back against the pull and hauled the half-deflated raft toward the hull, feet braced, breath loud. He looked down only once more. The red glow had blown out like a candle. The ring was gone. The water was ordinary again. They hauled him aboard in a flood of diesel smell and voices. Blankets, hands, questions. How long, how many, where are the others? He said, she fell, he said. They went under in the night. He let his voice break where it should break. He leaned against the bulkhead and closed his eyes and burned the last shape of Emily into the inside of his lids so he wouldn't forget what debt meant. Someone put a mug in his hand, tea or water, hot and sour. He drank. It scalded his tongue, and he welcomed it. A stocky man with a captain's face, lines pressed into him by weather and years, asked something slow and careful in accented English about names. Jason gave them. Jason Richmond, Emily Waters, Marcus Vale, Lila Vale. He said accident when asked cause, and the captain nodded like a man who has heard many accidents and understands some are only names for distances on the sea. They led Jason to a narrow cabin with a cot and a porthole, and left him there with a blanket and the leftover smell of other men's sleep. The engine hummed through the walls. He sat and waited for his hands to stop shaking. They didn't. He stood and pressed his forehead to the porthole and watched the ship's wake spread. The surface out there flickered, faint and red, like embers being breathed on. He told himself it was reflection, a trick, nothing. Then the flicker pulsed, once, twice, pause, and he knew the pattern without wanting to. You fed us, no words. Just a feeling, a pressure against thought, like a hand on the back of the neck. He set his palm flat on the glass. I listened, he whispered. The ship rolled on. The lights followed for a while and then faded one by one as the water deepened and the day put its face on. They took his statement in the captain's cramped office. He answered the questions in a voice that sounded like his and wasn't. He watched his own hands make shapes in the air as if they belonged to a man explaining the procedure. When it was over, they shook his hand and told him he was lucky. He nodded like he agreed. That night, he slept for an hour at a time. He woke to the sound of water hitting steel and thought it was tapping on rubber. He woke to his own breath and thought it was suction. He woke to silence and thought it was an answer. In the morning, the crewman who brought coffee said the port would take them in by dusk. Papers, a doctor, a phone, the slow machinery of a world that believed in forms and rooms and explanations. Jason thanked him. When the man left, Jason poured the coffee into the sink and listened to it hit the basin. The sound had a rhythm that made his skin crawl. He put his hands under the tap and turned it on. Water ran over, cuts and splits and stung. He kept them there until the ache steadied into something he could carry. In the mirror above the sink, he looked like a man who had been forgiven by accident. The bruise on his cheek from Emily's fist had come up nice and clear. The tender spot where Lila's teeth had grazed his shoulder. The night in the motel was a memory, not a mark. He touched the bruise and left it. On deck, the sky was clean and hard. The sea looked like a lie again, flat, blue, empty. He stood at the rail and watched it breathe against the hull. The captain came and stood beside him and said something about current and luck and the way the radio had caught a blink from an old satellite. Jason answered in words that fit. A school of small fish broke the surface a few yards off the bow and skittered like thrown stones. Something moved under them, a shape he could have called a shadow if he wanted an easier day. He didn't call it anything. He watched it roll and sink, and he knew it was only one of the outer ones, scouting. The pod was down there somewhere, not needing him anymore, but not forgetting either. "Long time at sea teaches you this," the captain said, following his gaze. "Ocean is not your friend." Jason nodded. "I know." They stood together in the cold sun. The ship cut on. The wake wrote white lines that dissolved behind them. No one asked about the ring of light that came and went beneath the wake, far enough back to pass for chance. When a crewman asked for the log, Jason gave it. Date, time, names, weather, loss. He said accident one more time and let the words stand like a headstone. He went back to his cabin and lay down and closed his eyes and saw the red circle again, dim now, patient. He thought about Emily's last look, anger and certainty and something else like pity. He thought about Lila's breath on his neck in a motel that smelled like wet carpet and the cheap thrill of saying we shouldn't and meaning we will. He thought about Marcus's hand slipping out of his and the way skin feels when it leaves you. He put his palm on his chest and counted his heartbeats until the count fell apart. When the ship's horn sounded for the harbor, he stood and smoothed the blanket he hadn't used. He washed his face and dried it and left the bruise unhidden. He opened the cabin door and stepped into the corridor smelling of coffee and rust and old salt, and didn't look back through the porthole. He didn't need to. The tapping had moved inside. He could hear it whenever he wanted. He didn't know if that scared him or kept him company. On deck, the harbor took shape. The tower, the cranes, the color of money and law. Men on the pier raised hands and shouted instructions with the confidence of people whose worst day happens in an office. Jason gripped the rail and watched the dock get closer. Someone behind him said, "You're lucky." He nodded. "Yeah." He kept his eyes on the water until the last possible second, hoping the red lights would pulse once more, so he'd know the world hadn't returned to normal by mistake. They didn't. The surface lay stupid and blue and harmless again, and he hated it for wearing that face. He didn't say goodbye to the ocean, and the ocean didn't say goodbye to him. It had his voice now. That was enough.